All right, this story is called Consumed. I'm going to tell you also it's, the narrator is a female, and the only reason I say that is because I'm reading it to you and I'm a guy, so if you're reading it, it's probably more clear. Consumed. When it happened, when you said to me, this relationship, Sharon, this relationship has consumed all its love, I felt like I was disappearing. Consumed is what you said, and you raised your eyebrow in that way you have, as if by using such a precise word you could anesthetize the pain of what you were telling me. The sun warmed my tan, slender arms. I wore the short dress you always said you loved. You reached out your hand when you saw my expression. Your strong fingers were inches from my face. I was afraid that you would touch me, but you did not, and I saw in your eyes not desolation, which is what I felt, but resolve. Standing there with your hand shielding my face from the sun, I asked myself, did we really use up all our love? And if together we had really consumed the last of it, why did I feel so empty, while you looked so satisfied? I remember folding my arms across my stomach and feeling the flat muscles just beneath my rib cage. I felt so small. Consume is such a loaded word. It appeared in my crossword puzzle the day after you moved out, and after packing each letter into its own small box in the puzzle's column, I stared at it. I reached to the side table for a cookie, but the package was empty. Con means against, as in contra, and con also means with, as in concupiscence. For and against, with and without, such a loaded word. In the kitchen, I browsed the pantry's shelves, thinking of your hand, which I would never feel again, hovering there by my cheek. The cool air from the pantry uncurled from the particle board shelves, and with the decisiveness I was proud of, I chose the yellow gold box of wheat thins and returned to the TV room, devoid of a TV since you had taken it with you, to start another crossword. It is funny how quickly things can change. So many things that you think of as permanent, as stable, are in reality flimsy enough to be blown apart with a simple sentence. I'm not even talking about us. Only a week had passed since our collapse, only 1 week, and I noticed that a pair of jeans I always wore was almost too tight to button. I forced the button through. It wasn't impossible, but they were too uncomfortable to leave buttoned. So I took them off and wore my loose black sweatpants instead. Even our shapes are temporary. I sat on the couch, working through a crossword while eating breakfast. By the time I fit the last letter into the last blank square, I was out of both cereal and milk. Consumption once meant tuberculosis, which is classified as a wasting disease. Did you mean we had wasted our love? Did you feel I was a waste? I realize I may seem obsessive, but these are the things I think about now, lying in this white and quiet place. I am consumed, you might say, by consumption itself. You have no idea what this feels like. You cannot. It happened fast at first, then slowly. As the weeks passed, my body bulged out and my skin stretched around a new mass, a new me. I thought of my nerve endings moving further apart along the surface of my body, like that 6th grade demonstration of an expanding universe with 2 black marks on an inflating balloon. They start out so close, but inner tensions force them away, and so each nerve ending is isolated on its own growing island of skin. Getting fat is like that, like being an inflating balloon. Collapse, consume, expand, consume. I did not feel like I controlled my body anymore. There were new inches of flesh between my overworking heart and the atmosphere outside, causing my inner temperature to run feverishly high. And yet, when I would brush the backs of my fingers across my dimpled arms, I felt like I was touching someone else. My skin was so cool. Walking down the sidewalk became difficult. The fabric in my mail-order dresses would catch on strange protrusions of fat, rubbing against my isolated nerves. Then walking was just too exhausting. I tried the bus only once. Other passengers' eyes weighed me like they would a summer watermelon, calculating pounds, awed and repelled at once. Their hard eyes told me, there is no room for you here, fatty. Am I ever in your thoughts? I think I will be soon. Would you even recognize me now, if you saw me here in these sterile sheets, in my pillowy, horrific body? And if you did recognize me, would you choose to acknowledge me? Secrets cannot be kept indefinitely. Any day now the news will break. The medical community is already buzzing. It takes months to release a paper to an official journal of medicine, but only hours to prepare a live news broadcast. Soon a reporter will arrive, and then you will see me everywhere, I am sure. The nurses here bathe me with sponges twice a day. They are especially careful around the orifices. Orifice is what the doctors say. I'm fine with that word, though it does not capture what they most closely resemble. I did not leave the house after that bus ride until I was brought to this place. I signed up for a fresh and frozen food service and received weekly deliveries. The company even sells crossword puzzle books in their website's checkout line section. A few months after our collapse, I noticed the first puckering intrusion. I was almost through another crossword book and I was eating toffee-covered peanuts from a tin. I remember the feeling of the sweet morsel snapping between my teeth and the pleasant sensation of the toffee flavor mingling with the tough, indestructible texture of the pen, which I chewed on while I worked the puzzle. What brought my attention to the pucker on my side was a strange, localized itchiness, just there below my ribcage. I felt through the loose fabric of my gray dress a depression distinctly different from the regular folds of fat swallowing my body. At first I thought it was a bed sore. I had not showered in quite some time. But the irritation was not like that of a wound. I felt around, and when my fingertips touched the place, it flexed. I felt a distinct contraction. It was fascinating. It may be hard for you to understand, but at this point I did not feel like my body was really mine anymore. It was merely a grotesque costume in which I'd become entrapped. So when I felt this hungry indentation, it was with curiosity and not alarm that I began my investigation. I hoisted my dress up foot by foot, finally removing it entirely. Even naked, I could not see the spot, obscured as it was by my own rolling mass, but I could touch it. As if reading Braille, I moved my fingers around the indentation below my ribs. The rim felt simultaneously pliant and rigid, like a snapdragon blossom. I was feeling an infantile mouth. There were no teeth, only gums, and indeed, as they started suckling on my finger, I felt a resurgent sense of hunger. Mesmerized, I took a single toffee peanut from the tin. I brought it to my side and placed it between the firm little gums. The mouth ingested the candied peanut, pulling it greedily from my fingers, then mashed it up and swallowed it. I fed it another, and then another. The next day I found a second small mouth just under and a bit to the right of my navel. I felt around for the first mouth, and when my fingers touched it, I winced at the vicious stinging pain as the mouth chomp closed. Evidently, overnight, a set of tiny teeth, as tough and sharp as a serrated knife, had developed. Each mouth had its own preferences. The mouth near my navel favored savory foods like canned raviolis and deli meat, while the mouth on my side loved fresh fruit. Cantaloupe was its absolute favorite. For a time, there were only the two mouths, but after another week, I noticed a third, and then a fourth. The mouth on my back, behind my left kidney, preferred tomatoes and buttermilk and underripe plums, especially the tart skins. A very small mouth yawned open one afternoon on my forearm. Fully mature, its teeth were square and precise, exactly like a zipper. This mouth liked meat, the rarer the better. My weekly food deliveries grew from 1 crate to 3, and then to 6. Each week the doorbell rang. I would shrug on a dress and labor across the room. Mrs. Sharon Ellis? Yes? Are you satisfied with our service? It was the delivery boy. He was the only person I saw anymore. Satisfied? I asked him. I had my arms behind my back in order to conceal the mouth on my forearm, and another developing on the palm of my hand. The boy's pale, smooth cheeks burned from his exertion after hefting the 6 food crates up my front steps. He looked at me nervously, as though I might touch or even caress him. Satisfied is how you looked when you said those things to me. I felt a trickle of saliva on my forearm hidden behind my back. The meat-eating mouth wanted to be fed. Well, you're my biggest account, said the delivery boy. I didn't say anything. He continued, my boss says I'm due for a raise so long as all my customers are satisfied, and, well, I've got a quick survey here. I was hoping you could... It wasn't really a voice, more like a gurgle that came from my arm. I'd not known the mouths to speak before. I hoped you would think it was just my own stomach rumbling. I would love to help you get your raise, I said, and shifted my incredible weight. The pergo floor in my apartment's entryway popped and flexed. but not loudly enough to drown the nasty snapping and barking noises that were now emanating from all over my body. All the mouths had found their vocal abilities at once. The survey card and the little golf cart pencil trembled in the boy's outstretched hand. His fresh, tender face flushed a deeper and more lurid red. I looked at him and realized just how helpless he was. He was alone, and I was alone. Together, we were alone. I wrapped my arm around his head, positioning the meat mouth against his cheek. I held him while those cute, zippering teeth nibbled at his youthful face, and my whole body warmed with gratitude. It was the first bite of Thanksgiving turkey after a week of cooking. It was the taste of blackberry pie after the kitchen had smelled of baking all day. It was satisfaction at its purest. If he screamed, I did not hear it. The thick curtain of fat insulating my body made a soundproof seal around his lips and nose, which fully muffled any noise. Then the mouth chattering in my palm gripped his shoulder and chewed on his uniform as I pulled him into the apartment. Do you remember the zoo when we visited the marine life exhibit? There was an octopus that they let us hold, and the suction cups along its legs were startlingly tenacious. My body was like that. I held the delivery boy to my chest and stomach, pulling him into my rabid flesh. My dress was getting in the way, and so was his uniform, so I removed our clothes, and then embraced him with redoubled vigor. I trembled on the brink of swooning, overcome by the ecstatic feast. We collapsed onto the couch. I was on top, engulfed in holy, overwhelming tactile bliss. I tasted him with my whole body. His skin was gristly in my many mouths, tough and pliant like dried taffy, while his sweat glands salted rare, unnamed cutlets. I tasted him on my various tongues and let him fill my craven, starving soul. When we were done, I lay pleasantly spent, listening to all my many mouths purring and smacking. My eyes swept idly around the TV room. The delivery boy's satisfaction survey lay atop a stack of completed crossword books, speckled with spots of blood. My mind was in a happy haze, and I drifted off to sleep. When the police saw my red-smeared body, they called for backup. It was in leather restraining straps that I was hefted to the ambulance by a team of 8 straining paramedics. And now here I am, in here, and there you are out there in the world somewhere. Do you know what this is like? No, of course you don't. Lying here thinking of what has happened, I remember what you said. We consumed all our love. But really, only you consumed it. It doesn't matter now. I only wish you had found me at a time when I could have satisfied myself with just your body and nothing more. Thank you.